Okay, it's time for some rank speculation with a little bit of evidence to support it. We're all desperate to know when we're going to get our hands on the casting of Frank Stone, so I thought I'd look for clues in the most logical place of all, the past. Don't know why I read it that way. Specifically, let's look at how Supermassive Games has handled trailers in the past, and how long we have to wait between the game being announced and it being released. Naturally, we're going to start with the first game of Supermassive's modern period, Until Dawn. Now, this is a little tough to judge since they announced it a few times in different versions, but we're going to talk about the final PS4 version of the game, since it was announced with a teaser trailer on December 6th, 2014, followed by a launch date trailer on May 26th, 2015. It came out on August 25th, 2015, which makes 262 days from the teaser, 91 days from the launch date trailer. Next is Rush of Blood, which was announced on October 27th, 2015, then launched, along with the PSVR, a year later on October 13th. 352 days later, to be precise. Also, kind of amazing that they announced the Until Dawn rail shooter just 2 months after Until Dawn came out, right? Tumble VR was announced on March 15th, 2016, and it came out 3 days before the PSVR on October 10th, which is kind of weird, actually. That's also when I got my copy of Rebellion's brilliant Battlezone VR. I guess it's just a case of some business people only understanding that games are supposed to come out on Tuesdays, and not really bothering to check whether a game would actually be playable on that day. Anyway, the point is, it's 209 days. June 12th, 2017 was a huge day for Supermassive. They announced 3 games all at the same time. First up is Hidden Agenda, which went on to come out on October 24th, just 134 days later. The Inpatient came out on January 23rd, 225 days later, and Bravo Team was released on the 6th of March, a total of 267 days after the announcement. And can we take a moment, again, to be blown away by the fact that Supermassive Games announced 3 new games on a single day, including the Until Dawn VR prequel, and all of them were out within a year? That's crazy, right? Now we're going to skip Shattered State, because I'm not 100% sure that game actually exists, and wasn't just some kind of producer's-style scam that they ran on Google. Then we have Man of Medan, which was announced on August 18th, 2018, and was released just over a year later on August 30th, 2019. That's 377 days. Now things get a little weird, since we have 2 different dates for each of the Dark Pictures games. The first is the date the teaser for the game comes out, which is the day the previous game is released. And the second is the story trailer, which comes out when they're ready to show off the game. I think it's safe to say that if they weren't committed to teasing each game in the credits of the previous game, these story videos would be the announcement trailers. So, what are the dates for the Dark Pictures games? Little Hope is August 30th, 2019 for the teaser, and July 6th for the story trailer, with a release date of October 30th, 2020, which is 427 or 114 days, depending on how we're counting it. House of Ashes was first teased on October 30th, 2020, and then had a story trailer on June 10th, 2021, before coming out on October 22nd, 2021. 357 days from Little Hope, and 134 days from the story trailer, making it the only Dark Pictures game to come out less than a year after its predecessor. Also, notice that 134 again. That's weird. The Devil in Me was teased on October 22nd, with a story trailer coming out on July 7th, 2022. That game came out November 18th, 2022, which is 392 days from the announcement, or 134 days from the story trailer. Again. Overlapping that is The Quarry, which had its announcement trailer on March 17th, before coming out on June 10th, just 85 days later. Finally, we've got Switchback, which was formally announced on November 2nd, 2022. And while it came out on March 16th, I'm wondering whether we should use its original intended release date as a launch title for the PSVR 2, February 22nd, which would be 112 days. That would make more sense to me, personally, but here's the thing. I feel like maybe they knew it wasn't going to hit the PSVR launch window when the trailer went up, and they knew that it was going to be in March. Why do I think that? Because if March 16th was always the intended date, then the time from the trailer release is 134 days, which is the exact same window that we already saw in House of Ashes, Devil in Me, and Hidden Agenda. I mean, that's probably meaningless, but I've decided it's too big a coincidence not to build a whole theory around. So, now we've got our numbers, but we can't average them out until we figure out whether this was a teaser, reveal trailer, or kind of a story trailer like with the Dark Pictures games. Content-wise, the fact that there's nothing resembling gameplay shown suggests that this should be considered a teaser, so obviously I'm leaning towards this being that, but it's worth checking out all the numbers anyway. Across a dozen games, the average length of time between a game getting its first trailer and being released is 268 days. If for some reason they had used that as the basis for when the game should come out, and we adjusted it to the nearest Friday, since supermassive games always come out on Fridays, then we could expect it to come out on August 30th, 2024. Of course, there's no reason to think that anyone would come up with a date by averaging other dates. That would be like a really just odd thing to do. So let's look at the two most likely scenarios. Of the 12 games, 5 were released approximately a year after the reveal trailer, and there's actually a potential clue pointing in this direction. As commenter Eric Ozga pointed out, the clock on the wall is set to 9 o'clock, so the hands are on the 12 and the 9. If we interpret that as December 12th, that would mean the game would be coming out almost exactly a year after the teaser. The problem with that being that December 9th is a Monday in 2024, and supermassive games come out on Fridays. The same problem comes up with September 12th. Still, that would be a heck of a great place to hide a clue. Of the 12 supermassive games, 4 came out in the window between 6 and 9 months after the first trailer, which would put Frank Stone as a summer release, just like The Quarry, Supermassive's last non-Dark Pictures cinematic adventure, and of course, Until Dawn. The final 3 games come out between 3 and 5 months after the announcement trailer. So if this is one of those games with just an announcement trailer like The Quarry, rather than both, we could expect it to come out somewhere in March or April. There's 2 pieces of evidence supporting this. One is silly, so I'm going to mention it first. A third of all modern supermassive games have come out exactly 134 days after a trailer, and 134 days after the Frank Stone trailer release is April 19th, which is, in fact, a Friday, because, as I keep saying, supermassive games come out on Fridays. As for the other piece of evidence supporting a sooner-than-you'd-think release is this little chart from Behavior Interactive. This is the Year 8 roadmap they released with a Singularity at the 7th anniversary celebration. Take a look at the March chapter, which is going to feature a new survivor and a new killer. Nothing unusual about that except the roadmap was just revised. Suddenly March now features a new map that's presumably connected to the new killer and new survivor. I think it's fair at this point to assume that Dead by Daylight is going to be adding Frank Stone as a killer and one of the playable characters as a survivor around the time of the game's release. So there was always going to be a new chapter coming out on the roadmap the same month as the game. But the addition of a map after the roadmap had already been out for 4 months seems like a clue. Because if they have a character and survivor important enough to have a map go with them, wouldn't that already have been on there? Could this be a situation where the intent was to release a Cedar Steel Works map sometime after Frank Stone came out? But in the intervening months, the developers have managed to get the map done earlier than they'd planned, and they're going to drop it right into the casting of Frank Stone chapter to make it even more of an event? I guess this means it's time for me to make an actual prediction. So here it is. If I had to put real money on it, I'd guess Frank Stone was coming out next summer. It makes sense. Until Dawn and Quarry were both summer releases. Kids are off school and able to play the tie-in content for Dead by Daylight all day and all night. And then they can time the release to cross-promote it with the 8th anniversary of Dead by Daylight. As a potential release date, it just makes a ton of sense. Especially since if it's any later than that, it would risk pulling focus from 80/20, which I think we are all assuming is going to be October, November 2024, right? I think there's a solid chance that we'll be formally introduced to Frank Stone in March. I thought it was a pretty big long shot that it would be out on a Quarry timeline, but then they changed the roadmap, and I don't know. It started kind of pulling me in that direction. That said, we're not going to have to wait too long to find out if I'm wrong. I've been the Hidden Object Guru. Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to Coffee for letting me know about the updated roadmap, which is why I made this video. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for topics I should cover, drop them in the comments section below the video. If you'd like to see more, please be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you back here for more Supermassive Games videos, but until then, I'll say that's right, au revoir.